You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kelvin, and with me today are Amy, Mark, and Christos. Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing good. Hello.
Good morning. Fantastic.
Are we all feeling bereft now that we've finished Picard? Have we all got big gaps in our social lives and in our hearts?
Yes, my heart and my eyes are very sore from all the feelings and the cryings. I can't believe just how amazing it was. And the good thing that I love about Star Trek is that we get to talk about it with all our different friends, and everyone's like, messaging and, hey, what did you think of it? It's just such a wonderful community to belong to.
I know. I think it was funny, like watching Thursday morning, like who I think Kevin Scarf was the first one to like get me in the DMs to be like, what did you think? Because you just want to talk about it with somebody. And then I think Christian got me after that, but it was like, and as the day went on, you could open up a little bit more into groups. But yeah, what an amazing finale. And I don't know that we've ever seen this done before, but to get like almost a half hour of an epilogue was nuts. Like there was so much in that, so much I think that was just for us, the fans. It was beautiful.
Excellent.
I think that's why they locked them in together for the two-part IMAX experience, was because they are meant to be seen back to back. And I feel like almost like it was a little bit of I don't want to say letdown, but a missed opportunity, shall we speak, that they should have dropped them just together so that the world could have seen them as two at one time. Because I really thought every episode of Picard across the board leading up to episode 9 was 10s across the board. But we get to episode 10 and I was like, nah, it's 9.5 maybe. Only because I felt like, and I told Amy this too, I felt like episode 9 was the cake and episode 10 was the icing. It was just like, oh, great, there's frosting here. But all the meat really happened in 9. And it was just like 10 was kind of like, oh, and here's the other stuff. Oh, that's great. These are nice. But it wasn't as fulfilling.
I think I could have processed seeing 9 and 10 together for the first time. I think I would have I was already crying when the Enterprise got rolled out at the end of 9. If you would have kept going with that and then started everything else, I just probably had to have been committed. So the only episode I thought left you kind of wanting more and was weird was episode 7, which was the Dominion one, and that's the one that ends on the very dark note with Vadic taking over the Titan. That's the one that's like, no, you need to see 7 and 8 together, otherwise, because that was the one I didn't even find myself rewatching a ton because I just didn't like how dark it ended.
Oh yeah,
other than that, I thought all the other episodes were great as one-offs.
I think it's interesting you say that, Mark, because I agree. I think episode 9 was better than episode 10, but I still think episode 10 was damn near perfect. I preferred episode 9, especially obviously the end, gave me a lot more feels. I think that was the fan service aspect, and episode 10 was right. Let's wrap up the story. Yeah. It looks like we've headed over to the escape pod without actually strapping ourselves in. So we might as well just fire up the escape pod.
We've been living in the escape pod. What are you talking about?
Escape pod.
Escape pod!
For the final time. Oh, you get to retire your little sound effect on that one soon, Mark.
I hope you all enjoyed it. It was fun.
What a 10 weeks. What a 10 weeks. So
I know, right?
I mean, you obviously podcasted a lot of your thoughts yesterday on Galaxy Class. So have you got any kind of exclusives for us here on All Good Things that maybe you've reflected overnight and you've got anything more to add?
Well, one thing I do want to make sure that I get out there, and of course, y'all know it's going to be about Troy, but to see her story, and that's when I was like, almost every single time she was on screen, I was just bawling. Like, it was so good to see her be an excellent counselor, and save. Like, I predicted, like, she's going to be the one to save them, and she did, because of that amazing connection that she has with Riker, and that enabled her. And like, she jumped up to action. That was a big thing. Like, when she was talking with Jack and she saw the Borg, she jumped into action. Like, she is ready and willing to do her job at all costs. And that is so nice to see. I just loved the Troy story, her and Riker, again, that strong bond, but her contribution to, saving everyone.
Yeah. I like you said the contribution, because my thought was like everybody kind of had a piece in saving the day. I mean, between Geordi wailing out the Enterprise D and, Troy, the way she jumped in there to find Riker and get them out at the end, and the way that Beverly figures out how to zoom in on identifying Jack, and her badass tactical. I mean, is she better at tactical than Worf? I mean, that is right. And then even her willingness to sacrifice Jack and Jean-Luc, when she fires those torpedoes, not knowing that they would get them out. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm doing this because it's better for everybody. And then who else? Worf jumps in there and he saves the day with him and Riker at the end. And it was one thing.
Geordi was highlighting his command skills. Data was going to pilot the thing into the cube, and they were all like, oh, this is, even with our computer fully operational, like, this isn't something that you could realistically do. And he just like looked at him as a human for the first time. This is the first time we're seeing Data's real humanity come out, and he's like, I can do this. And then they have that moment, that just glance between Geordi and Data, that is just, this is 40 years in the making of this glance between the two, and he's like, all right, my friend, you got this. And then you just let him do his thing.
Did you get major Return of the Jedi vibes from that whole thing?
Who didn't?
From what, the Enterprise D flying inside the
zoom in through the cube, and blowing up the core at the center of it, which is very Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, is it Jedi or A New Hope?
Oh no, it's Jedi that they go into the middle of the Death Star. Yeah.
Ah, right, okay.
Lando's flying the Millennium Falcon.
What did we think of the Enterprise D's somewhat newfound maneuverability? Obviously, they couldn't do that on CGI back in the day, so it seems new. But we're just so used to seeing a Galaxy class to be so lurching and fortress-like and slow. And now to see it like a computer game, zooming around, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I think you can liken it to Strange New Worlds. I mean, we're seeing the original Enterprise zooming around with much more maneuverability than we've ever seen it before.
Yeah,
the way Ortega's pilots it. So I think you're seeing what it was always meant to do, but they couldn't show us it.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. It just kind of seems it takes me away from that effort that they've gone to for everything to be authentic and as it was, but this is new, so it's interesting.
Well, to tag on to that, we briefly mentioned Star Wars, and if you guys remember from Rogue One, a Star Wars story, it was the first time when we really saw Vader unleashed and just going through that corridor and throwing this body and that body and pulling this person apart and using his lightsaber. And we'd never seen Vader battle like that before because they just didn't have the ability to do it before. So it was the same kind of thing. It's like we already knew that he could do that, but it was the first time we could see it in action.
Okay, so put the technology and what we have aside. I feel like when you're rebuilding, say like an old car, like you're going to put in the newer engines and the newer shocks and stuff, but you're rebuilding it. Just keeping the frame, but that car probably, if you do it right, is going to outperform the original car. Say, like if you're building something from the 1970s and you're rebuilding it now, like there's been improvements. So even though it's the shell of the old car, I think it's going to outperform the original.
Like
I
ABBA.
like how you're thinking, Amy. Well, and to remember, the Star Drive section is not the original Star Drive section. So who knows how many more years that Star Drive section was in service before it was taken and given to the D. In fact, it probably went through that ship probably had its full life and went through a decommission. And that's how it was available to be paired with the saucer of the D. And that being said, to your point, Amy, it probably had upgrades over time. I like that.
Interesting. What did we think about the kind of the four? Was it four? Like there were so many different endings to the episode, and not like alternate endings. It was almost like the episode wouldn't end. It just went on.
It could have kept on going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed how many times like Picard said his goodbyes. It's like, I've loved serving with you, and I need to say my goodbyes, and I need to go be a father now. Here's another goodbye. Like there were so many goodbyes in it.
Yeah.
It was almost a Star Trek Discovery episode. There was just a lot less tears.
There were plenty of tears.
There was plenty of tears.
That was the audience tears.
I feel like because one thing that was ruined for me was the prior week, Jonathan Frakes was on Trek Weekly or whatever, and he said nobody dies. And what Picard's doing is letting you as the audience think that someone's not going to make it. And basically him. I mean, they're setting that up. And because I knew he wasn't going to get it, he kind of.
I'm so glad I didn't hear that. That would have really spoiled it for me. I was going with the tension that maybe not everybody makes it back.
See, and you probably enjoyed it a little bit more for that reason there. But as for all of the endings, I loved them. I mean, I'll just real fast talk my Beverly. Like 15 months ago, if you'd asked me if I'd ever see Beverly Crusher on screen again, I would have been like, maybe a cameo. Literally, and I think we've talked about that in the past. And then sure enough, Picard comes along, and not only was he Gates in all 10 episodes, but
front and center.
Front and center, well, except for two. Two's the only episode. She doesn't even have lines in two. She just has that look with Picard, which is a lot.
Which steals the episode.
Yeah, in fact, if you heard that on the soundtrack. But at the very end, for her to have done everything she did, kind of show off her badassery again. We saw that in episode 1, and to see it again in episode 10, and then to be promoted to Admiral at the end, I'm like, head of Starfleet Medical, and just fixing all the kids that got infected by the Borg and finding the solution to the changelings. I'm like, as a Bev fan, I couldn't have asked for more. I mean, I have no problems with things, except what about Laris? Is Picard and Beverly together? What happened to Laris? I don't know.
This is, I wanted, she didn't even need to be there, but a line of dialogue would have sorted out, because it was 12 months later, wasn't it? At the very end, they'd gone forward a year.
I would have liked to seen one clip of her sitting at a bar, sort of looking sad, and then walking away. You know what I mean? As though he didn't show up. Like that's all they needed, and it would have been sad, but it would have been like, okay, that's what happened, because obviously that's what happened.
I mean, I'm seriously, I don't know. It's very debatable. Did Jean-Luc and Beverly end up together? I mean, they kind of held hands on the bridge, but that was all they did. I don't know.
I think with so many tries of them being together, and now we have them, being together, producing a child, they just are so much better friends that they can't get that relationship part of it. And so in my headcanon, they are excellent parents. They parent well together. They're co-parenting. They're doing all of that, but they are not romantically involved. And I'm fine with him and Laris. So I'm okay with that.
It would have been nice if she showed up at 10 Forward at the end as well. Maybe just briefly and be like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with Guinan now, and then walks away. She didn't need to be in the whole piece. But
I think that would have had the same effect of Guinan being there. The premise of that scene was that it was just those 7 people. And as nice as it would have been for more, I think it would have taken away from that chemistry of the 7. Picard has done more bartendering in this season than like Guinan did in the entire run of Next Gen. He loves it behind the bar.
Yeah. I just wanted to say again about Beverly, for what you were saying, Christos, earlier. I thought Beverly shined. Like the way that they, like biology, medical, technobabble, put the things together was brilliant and made her so important, because there were so many episodes where it's like, how are you going to write her? But they got her in with looking at the medical, thinking the way that she does, and then applying it to the technical. I loved it.
Yep. It was definitely justice for Beverly. And I also felt like Troy, I think Terry Matalas looked back at things, and he even the whole point where Troy crashes the saucer.
Lands.
Let's give her that arc of driving the ship one last time to saving them, and running up there, and to your point, running and jumping at the helm. I just thought that was perfect. In fact, I was kind of wondering why she wasn't at the helm earlier when there was nobody at the helm,
Well, they establish in all the dialogue that Data's doing all the driving in episode.
But I think I know she was computering, but I thought it would be
I think they missed a great opportunity for a comedy moment there. They could have just had Data look to the side and give her, oh shit, Deanna's back at the helm. And I just think that would have it would have been really funny.
Had him briefly scrape the Enterprise and ding it, scratch it and be like, oh shit, that would have been funny. And Geordi'd have a little Data,
I just rebuilt
this thing
this
back
thing
together. But so many. So my other only question, like I said, I give this episode a 10+. So my only, like I said, Laris, not the non-resolution of Laris. And like I said, I was kind of good with Beverly and Jean-Luc not being together. I felt that was fine. But if he's still with Laris, I felt that was just dropped. And then as much as the fan service he was at the end with the revelation that the Titan had been rechristened the Enterprise G, I didn't quite. In fact, the minute it showed on screen, it just didn't even feel right to me. I thought we had spent 10 episodes learning to love the Titan for what it is and respecting it. And I love its history with Riker and Savick that they established for it. And it being the former flagship, I felt like I didn't need the G to come back. I don't know. How did y'all feel about that?
Well, one thing that Rhea pointed out on Galaxy Class, and she just led us right along, and she's like, do you know what letter G is in the alphabet? And I was like, why does that matter? It's the 7th letter. 7 of 9 is now the captain of the Enterprise G. So I, too, Christos, when I saw the 1701 G, I was just like, ew, why did they do that? But now I'm totally on board with it.
Okay. I could take it or leave it. And I think with the Titan, I think it was less about the identity of it being the Titan and more with the aesthetic of that Neo-Constitution class and the appearance of the ship. So I love the look of the ship. I just don't think it needed to be rechristened. I would have, even if it's in the spin-off, Star Trek Legacy with, 7 of 9 as the lead character on board the Titan. There's no need for Enterprise. That would have stood fast as a series on its own. Can I just point something out as well, in case we do get Legacy and 7 of 9 is the lead actor character in the show? If you think of the development of Star Trek and the leads that we've had in all the series, you had a young straight man, and then an old straight white man, and then a black man, and then a woman, and then a black woman, and then Prodigy leads with an alien, and now we're going to have a show with a queer character as the lead. So it's that continuing pushing the envelope of, a person. And I would love that, to have the lead character in Star Trek be gay or lesbian or bi.
And I know she's not like an alien. So, 709, it was a human. But even so far as having like prosthetics and at one point have being assimilated and it had been part of the Borg collective, it's the first time we've seen that in I guess like not animated form. Like I wouldn't consider an alien, but like not 100% human. Like she did have a special like Borgified abilities or whatever. And so it's the first time we've seen that as well, like on screen, not animated.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys. Do you feel now that Rafi being her number one, are they back together? What do you think?
I can't see them. I can't see a command structure allowing first officer and a captain to be romantically involved. That would not happen. So I think they're very good friends, like Jean-Luc and Beverly.
Well, Janeway and Chakotay.
Deanna, she was on the ship with Riker on the Titan, working under him, and they were married.
Yeah, and the counselor.
Yeah, but that's not first officer. I mean, there's.
But still, he's, in command of her, and she's on the bridge crew.
Yeah.
So,
I think it would be messy for the storylines in Star Trek. I'm just talking as though Star Trek Legacy is going to be happening in the next year.
I really hope so.
Let's manifest it.
I think it'll have passed by the time this podcast airs, but isn't the 25th the day we're supposed to tweet like crazy about Legacy? There's a thing going around. No, there's a thing going around. I saw like April 20th.
I don't know.
We were supposed to do it on the day the show
and aired. I did, but I saw some stuff this morning on Twitter, so check it out.
I've added it as a standard hashtag on Instagram to all of my cosplay.
Yeah, I know. Just anything I do is just Star Trek
Legacy.
Keep it going. Yeah. But I think they want to get it trending again. Post kind of away from Picard, but have it be its own thing. Kind of going back to the queer thing. I just wanted to point out some friends in a chat group pointed that out this morning to me, and it was the first time I even thought about it, because I think the thing that's funny I notice between me and other people sometimes, and you guys think a lot like I do, there are things that I just accept and have no problem with, and it's fine. And other people point out to me, oh, they got a queer leader. Oh, they got a black leader. Oh, they have a woman leader. There's too many. It didn't even strike me that you had 3 women of color set up as Legacy on that bridge, that you have a female captain and a female first officer. That stuff doesn't even it's just perfectly natural to me. It doesn't even the levity of it, but then I hear other people point it out that, oh, there's Star Trek being woke. I'm like, no, that's just the way it is, and
it's real life.
It's real life, and they're capable. And I feel really good about myself that way, that in the sense that it doesn't even dawn on me that is a thing. I just accept it and it's fine.
And the characters are all fantastic. I would not like the Alandra LaForge. I wouldn't want her off the bridge. I love her. Raffi, I love her. Seven, love her. There's so many in that the non-binary character. I always forget her name, or their name, but they're great as well. Love them. So I don't want any of them gone.
Did you see on Twitter, I think it was Terry Metalis who retweeted Michelle Hurd's saying goodbye? Yeah, Christos, you brought that to my attention. Oh my gosh. So good. Yeah, and she just made this point. I was just jaw-dropping. She's like, here we are, strong women, people of color, and you can tell us apart. And I just it's...
Yeah, and you don't even realize, things that we don't realize are a struggle, right? Yes, right. It's a thing. So the representation is there. And I just hope that they dig a little bit back into Seven's queerness and maybe Rafi's, because it was the one thing I felt like got a little bit whitewashed in Picard season 3 was there wasn't a whole lot of true queer representation, because I felt they went out of their way to water down what we had seen in season 2 between Rafi and Seven, and make, just kind of have them not even be part of the story. Good, Mark.
I definitely agree that it was on the back burner. I think a lot of it had to do with the story just being they really have to save the galaxy, no time for romance. That's where my head was at. But I do want to also fast forward to the credits and the end credits scene before we run out of time talking about this episode. It's for me, I love the setup of it. I love that Q isn't dead. That's because the idea is just so what did he say? Linear. I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
of course he's still there.
And
What are your thoughts?
he looked great as well. That outfit they put him in with like the red cape. It's just it
Yeah.
was like an evolution of the Judge Q costume, and it was just love it.
I didn't expect it, but it was great. And I didn't even know there was going to be an end credit scene. I was just sitting in that chair behind me, kind of blown away at 5 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, and just letting my tears run down, watching them play poker. And then that scene happened. I was like, what? More? That's perfect. At first I was like, come on, you killed Q. But I'm like, is he, that would not make sense. I never understood Q dying anyway. It never made sense. So it was perfect.
Good stuff. Any more final thoughts on Picard episode 10 before we move on to this week's topic? It's hard to say goodbye, but we have to eventually.
I will say one more thing. If you guys enjoyed Star Trek Picard at all, in the least, and you would like to see these characters go forward, tweet like crazy, hashtag Star Trek Legacy, and also watch the heck out of this show. I mean, just put it on in the background as you're going to sleep. Just leave it playing. Just get those numbers up. Yeah. Keep it in the streaming top 10, and that's how it'll happen.
Yeah, one thing that did pop up since our last podcast was last week on Sunday, the Nielsen ratings came out, and through episode 4 only, Star Trek Picard was number 9 in the streaming ratings, and no Star Trek show has ever been in the top 10 streaming since, and that's only a kind of a newer chart. Only one other Paramount Plus show, which was 1923 with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, actually made it to the streaming. So my gut tells me that as this week, in fact, I think the next week's ratings are out today. Now that they'll have episode 5's streams to add to that, it's only going to go higher in the ratings. And I'd love, and to your point, Mark, the more you watch it's hours watched is how those ratings work. So when you watch the episodes 2 times, you've actually contributed, or 3 times. So just put Paramount Plus on and hit play and go to work,
There's a cost of living crisis. We can't afford the electricity bill for all of that.
I know.
Wonderful. Right, guys, I think it's time we moved on to this week and dare I say move away from Picard and TNG and head over to the Bajoran system and see what's going on at DS9. So this week we are continuing with our Get Off My Ship series, or maybe it may be the Man versus Machine series, as you may go on to see. But no, officially it's the Get Off My Ship series, part 3. And this week we're looking at DS9's Civil Defense. Previously in this series, we have covered Enterprise Acquisition and Voyager Message in a Bottle. So, Mark, do you want to give us a bit of a recap in what happens in Civil Defense?
Attention, Bajoran Workers. While deleting some old computer programs from the Cardassian ore processing plant, Jake Sisko and Chief O'Brien inadvertently trigger an automated counterinsurgency program, which wreaks havoc all over the station and puts the crew of DS9 in mortal danger. The security program was designed to protect Terok Nor from rebelling Bajoran workers trying to uprise against their Cardassian masters. And this episode definitely flips the script, so to speak, on the Get Off My Ship series, where instead of our heroes trying to get rid of an invading force, it's actually the bad guys, the Cardassians, are trying to get our heroes off their own station. So it's kind of funny.
Indeed. So we've called topic one "Attention, Bajoran Workers," just to kind of talk about that. But yeah, how interesting that you could almost, we talk about the Enterprise D in Picard as the character itself. If you think of DS9 as the character, it's like the station itself is saying, "Get off me! You guys
Yes.
don't belong here."
I just think that how many times did we hear "Attention, Bajoran Workers"? I'm like, okay, that's our new drinking game when watching this episode.
We'd be
Go take a
wasted.
shot.
Maybe they should have had that in the counterinsurgency program because we'd be dead. We'd have that many shots.
Exactly. All right, everyone's drunk. Get back to work. Okay.
Mark, is it Mark Alimo? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I have to say, like Worf, like Data, here's a character that has just great lines that just make me chuckle, and just his attitude towards the whole thing, and his superiority, and his just pompousness, and he just exudes that in a comical, almost cartoony villain kind of way that he makes me laugh. And the more and more, like, it kept upping the ante every time one of the new messages came on. It just kept getting like more, ludicrous. And I was just amused the whole time.
I was really amused with Garrick. He just comes in, and the way that he says his lines, it's always with this double meaning. And, he's like, I can walk around freely. Oh, well, I can't do anything more, So he like proves useful and like, well, maybe I could get this security clearance. Oh, mine's higher than yours, like type of thing. And that was Quark, sorry. But like the interplay with Garrick and Bashir, and just, you're working and Bashir's over your shoulder. It's like, oh, I have your pants tailored, I'm like,
I love that.
How did you get those pants, mister?
I loved it with Garrick. It is such the delivery. I think there is a scene of dialogue in this episode where Bashir says, "Are you having any luck?" when he's on the computer, and he says, "Oh, plenty, Doctor, but all of it bad." It's just he's written so perfectly. I love it.
He kind of steals the show. He always does.
Yeah, and this is very early on into DS9's run. It's the beginning of season 3. Season 1, we only had one Garrick episode, and season 2, I think we had 3, maybe 4. So this is, we hadn't seen a lot of Garrick by this point. We really got, when you get to the midpoint onwards, Garrick is such a recurring character. He's pretty much in most of the episodes, season 7. But at this point, he's still such a novelty. It's so great to see that kind of different style of character.
Oh, I was just saying, I actually picked up a little bit of the flirtation. This time with Dr. Bashir and Garrick, like he was leaning in awful close over his shoulder, and like the way he was delivering his lines was almost flirting with Garrick, when usually we see it the other way around. And I noticed that, and I loved that, just the way the two actors interact, where there's this unspoken sort of like, flirtatious love affair. I love it.
Did anyone else see that? I don't know if that is just the hindsight shipping that we all do for those characters. I definitely, and Andy Robinson has said many times, he played Garrick in a way that he just wanted to sleep with Bashir, and that was the motivation for it. But I don't think Sid played it like that. I don't believe it.
In this episode, in that scene, he definitely played it that way. I will die on that hill.
I'm going to agree with Mark on that one. I definitely felt like it was. I feel like it was their relationship reminds me of the way that Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis talk about how they played Riker and Troy. Even though they were never written to be together, they kind of kept those two characters together for the 7 years. And I feel like Alexander Siddig and Andrew Robinson did that for Garrick and Bashir.
Wonderful.
Yes.
One thing that I really enjoyed about this episode, like what you were saying previously, Kelvin, with the ship being a character, man, we got to see, not the ship, the station, sorry. We got to see so much of the station that we never got to see before. And I feel like gosh, this was season 3. Would it have been a little more successful? And what I got the feeling, especially with Cisco's team, they were seeing all this crap left behind and moving stuff. And it's like, this is really an abandoned Cardassian outpost. Like
Mining
you
facility.
saw the duplicity of this station, that it's like, yeah, I am Cardassian and you are here on my station. And that fight between it was just brilliant. And do you think it could have been as successful earlier so that we got to know the station a little bit more?
I think there's the line that's delivered by Kira when people are saying, I was just starting to think of this place as home. And she says, your home was built by Cardassians. Never forget that. And it just reminds us that it had a purpose when it was Terok Nor. It was an ore processing, a mining facility. We arrived onto DS9 with its fancy promenade of shops and its lovely ops and Starfleet coming on board. But, it's a mining station, which it has been discussed, and we'd seen in Crossover, the Mirror Universe episode in season 2, you'd seen the alternate Terok Nor's ore processing facility because it was still active. But this was really the first exploration of what DS9 was only a couple of years earlier. And it was character development for the character that was the station. So, yeah. Agreed, Amy.
Yeah, I would say that... DS9's early criticism was, all that money got spent on Emissary and whatnot. And then they did a bunch of bottle shows in which they didn't leave the station. And a lot of people were turned off by that. And then if you think about season 3, they had just built the Defiant sets and whatnot. So what did we get? Some bottle shows because you got to pay for those, those new sets that were built. So they got to keep the costs down. So it's kind of like we see this almost by accident because we have the Defiant now, because that they have to go do these bottle shows. But to your point, it gives us a much richer understanding of Deep Space Nine and what it is, or Terok Nor, and what it really was and what it represents. I think that it's episodes like this that give the Cardassian occupation a little bit more peek behind the scenes of what it really was, and it was slavery.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to think of that and the darkness. We talk about the Mirror Universe, and you talk about things, but this was really talking explicitly about the Cardassians, the treatment of the Bajorans, not only in the past in the ore processing, but the counterinsurgency program itself. Threatening to pump anesthetine gas into the habitat ring, threatening to shut off life support and kill everybody. It just really shows how savage the Cardassians were during the occupation. So yeah, you really get a feel for the plight of the Bajorans in this episode.
Well, and I think it's a common theme going on with that. Not only were they, their slaves, their workforce, but also sexualized. Like, we've got Gul Dukat totally hitting on Kira all the time. And you see that, and you see that the Bajoran women were their sex slaves, basically. And so you have these
allegories.
Yeah, thank you. These allegories between what happens in our history with white owners and black slaves and all of that treachery. Like, it's not bad enough that they're being worked and beaten to death, but have this additional. And it just blows my mind that it's like, you don't even see these people as human, and yet you still want to have sexual acts with them. It's beyond my comprehension, but you see it throughout. It's not just the work, it's everything of being dominated. It's terrible.
It is. And kind of, I don't want to jump ahead to a trivia, but it kind of is relevant to what Amy's saying. Nana Visitor had big problems with this episode afterwards and went back to the producers to say, no, if, this was so wrong, and Kira would be disgusted. I think the quote said something to the effect of, she would view Gul Dukat as like Hitler, and she would never be with him. And 3 years earlier, if he had wanted her, I thought he would have had to have done, because of quote unquote, like you said, Amy, slavery. And it was in future episodes when this is brought up again, they really write Kira to have major just disgust. And that was Nana's visitor's input, which I felt like amazing that DS9 had moved that much further ahead of like where TNG was, because in the past, if any of the female actresses spoke up on TNG, you got fired. But 10 years later, 7 years later on DS9, when a woman speaks up, it's listened to and it was taken into account. So I felt like the atmosphere from the actors must have been much better on DS9 for that respect.
And the writers were actually going to go somewhere with Dukat and Kira. You saw in kind of season 4, season 5, Return to Grace, and the other episodes were Kira and Dukat are together. There's this hint of a relationship, but Nana she just would not have it at all. And in the end, that's what became the Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night episode, where they had to switch the character to Kira's mother.
Yep.
Because Nana just said, we're not having that. It's unbelievable. This man is Hitler. Yeah. So naughty Cardassians, but let's not escape the fact that even Gul Dukat himself wasn't trusted by the Cardassians, because they had the little embarrassing moment where he tried to beam off the station, which triggered an extra subroutine in the counterinsurgency program, and his cowardice had left him stranded and in the same position as everybody else. Brilliant.
I got like Move Up Long Home vibes, or suddenly he's part of the game too. Whether he wanted to be part of it or not, you're now part of the game. I'm like, screw you, got the cat. This is all you now.
Good stuff. We get a lot in this episode of dialogue between Garak and Dukat themselves, and the character development of it. And again, we're talking DS9, it's early, but here is a relationship milestone between two guest stars. These aren't even our main cast, and this is the beauty of DS9, that how much development they put into this B cast. So we get all this bickering and Dukat laughing his head off because Garak cowering under a console. What did we all think of this? Did it strike a chord when you were rewatching it, of maybe the curiosity? Amy, I'm keen to see what you feel of this, because by your own admission, maybe you don't know the full story of Dukat and Garak.
No, I do not know the story at all. So fill me in.
Oh, right. Well, I had to borrow some knowledge here from my partner, who's a prolific reader of all of the book series. Christos, I know you're a bit of a bookworm as well for Star Trek, but the Andrew Robinson's novel, A Stitch in Time, really goes on to explain the relationship with Dukat and what actually happened. Pro-Cal Dukat was Gul Dukat's father in A Stitch in Time, and he worked at Central Command, and he was a bit of a Donald Trump character. So he was engaging in all sorts of nefarious, dare I say, criminal activities, using his position at Central Command to shield him. Formed this really naughty group called the Brotherhood, and they were up to all sorts. And it was the Obsidian Order who had to investigate this, and it was Garak who was the person who interrogated Gul Dukat's dad, and the humiliation of all of that, which led to his execution. So that was the reason why Dukat hated him. And then to further and to get the revenge, this aspect of Garak being exiled on Terok Nor, it was Dukat himself that assigned Garak to Terok Nor while he was still the prefect, and Dukat made him the tailor because it was a humiliating job. So it goes throughout a few of the book series. So, and then Garak being Garak, he was brought on to fix the uniforms as a tailor for the Cardassians, but actually thought he would add a little bit of flair to it and started creating women's dresses. And he actually made it his own in further defiance to Dukat. So it is really, really complex, that relationship, how much they hate each other. So I just love it. I love those characters.
I thought the exposition between the two was like amazing, and it's just further illustrating their distaste for each other. But I felt like, man, when Garrick threw out the Gul Dukat flirting with Kira and all that, man, he got him there, man, because it's like you could just tell when you catch someone unawares, and Garrick having that keen insight into people and relationships and body language and whatnot, he picked up on it like that. And I felt like in this particular case, he won the round.
Absolutely. I just want to drop in there as a little plug, actually. The novel A Stitch in Time is 20 years old. Andy Robinson released it straight after DS9 finished, and he's just recorded an audiobook and putting it on audio with his voice as the narrator. And while we were on the cruise this year, there was a little session where he did a little bit of a reading of it, and it was so beautiful. So it's due to be released any day now, and I would advise any DS9 fan to go and listen to that. And it will have the same impact as when Kate Mulgrew read the autobiography of Catherine Jane, where it will just give it a lot more prestige that Andy himself is reading it. So it'll be so good.
Yeah. And there's two other books, since we're talking books right now, real fast. If you're a Garrick fan, there's two books you need to read. First is Enigma Tales. They're both by Una McCormick, by the way. Enigma Tales picks up a couple of years after DS9, and Garrick is basically the president of Cardassia. There's also a big Dr. Pawlowski storyline to this episode, and Bashir. And then the second one is Second Self, which is a Picard novel, the most recent Picard novel, which deals with the event right before. It takes place right before season 2 Picard, but it does also visit Garrick's story again, which is and Rafi. So it's more of a Rafi Garrick story. But anyways, more on Garrick if you guys are interested.
Fantastic. Mark, what do you think about the Dukat and Garrick relationship and the charisma of it? Did you, as a viewer, were you kind of invested into this level of hate, or did it leave you curious as to the backstory between these?
It gave me, I actually could relate kind of to Garrick. I found that the way that Gul Dukat treated him is a lot of the way that, I guess, straight, cisgendered men have treated members of the LGBTQ community for years. Just very dismissive and condescending, and almost like the superiority above him. And I just love the way that Garrick just is having none of it, and is standing up for himself and going toe to toe, and actually, outsmarting him in the end. I thought that was a fantastic way to play that. It's just great. This was happening in the 90s, and to see, that what we know of now as being like a queer character, showing that level of power, I thought was awesome. And I love that.
I've never thought of it that way. You all know my feelings on Worf and how I go on about toxic masculinity, but yeah, you could easily transplant that to Gul Dukat. He is so toxic, but there's something about, and this is awful to say about such an evil character, but there's something charismatic I find about Dukat. I'm not saying I'm attracted to him or anything horrendous like that, but sometimes rather manipulative and powerful people do have a way of kind of casting a spell a little bit on people. And I think it's a testament to Mark Alamo's acting and the writing. But yeah, there's something about Dukat that when he speaks, I listen. And maybe that is some kind of internalized homophobia from me, that I'm thinking he's a powerful straight man and I'm programmed to listen to him.
Who was in somebody that we talked to from our circle, I don't remember who, had mentioned that they were in an elevator with him at STLV. Do you guys remember that?
No. With who? Mark Alamo?
Yeah. And I remember from whatever the story was, I forget who it was, but somebody was like, I guess, noticing that it was him and getting all excited in the elevator. And then Mark turning to his wife and being like, see, they do like me. And I just love that story. Anyway.
No, I don't know. I was in an elevator with Andy Robinson on the cruise this year and his wife. So that was kind of flip reverse.
I think Star Trek people love their villains. I mean, if I had ever had the chance to meet Louise Fletcher, man, I would have.
Oh my God, I would have fangirled.
Exactly. And it's like she was, Space Karen, whatever you want to call her, but love.
Can you call me my child? Please,
my child. Yeah. Can you answer? Can you do my voicemail setup, please? Oh God, that would be so hilarious. I mean, same way I can't wait to meet Amanda Plummer. She was awful, but she was great at being awful.
So in preparation for this, I went back and listened to Seventh Rule podcast with Sirach Lofton and Ryan.
Oh, wow.
And so I was listening to this, and, we know the TNG crew were playing pranks and having so much fun. And then we have the Deep Space Nine crew. It was more serious, more focused, more, let's just do our jobs and be done. But Sirach did tell this funny story where Colmini told Sirach when he was climbing up in that ore depositor, the shaft. He's like, he told him that there were spiders in there.
That's so cruel.
I mean, Sirach, how old? He had to have been
15
13?
or something?
And I thought that was a pretty good practical joke prank to play. So I was glad to hear that. I'm like, oh, see, they do have fun with each other.
It's funny, Kelvin, that you were saying like how old was he? Because when I watched the episode again, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is only early season 3. And Jake is basically just a little kid still in season 1. So he grew that much in 2 years. Like, I know and we've all met Sirach Lofton. He's a tall guy. So he obviously sprung up, but he went from like little boy to young man pretty fast.
He was saying that his tan onesie jumper thing, he's like, that didn't last very long because he was in his growing spurt, and so you don't see that outfit much longer.
He grew in a lot of ways, and I think that's why they had to start tailoring his costumes different.
Mark. Wow. I liked moving away from Jake Sisko's anatomy. They had a few episodes where they paired Jake Sisko with O'Brien, and they were trying to foster and develop that, make him the new Wesley Crusher. So introduce him to Starfleet operations and things, and him decided, but it clearly obviously didn't work. So that's, you'd get a definite hard stop with Jake, and it's picked up with Nog, and Jake goes his own way to be the writer. But it's interesting when you do a rewatch and look back and, almost seeing Jake on this kind of apprenticeship, working with Chief O'Brien in these early episodes that you just wouldn't imagine him doing later on.
It's I kind of like totally cool with that, because I think of it as like, well, I have this opportunity because my dad's the boss. If I don't know what I want to do with my life yet, I can go hang out with all these professionals and see what they do and find out what it's all about and kind of try things. So
work experience.
I kind of like internships. Kind of like that was my headcanon watching that last night. I was like, oh, because this was very different than, you're right, what Jake ended up becoming. So
where they ended up going with the character, I thought was fantastic. I've always loved that he wasn't Wesley. He wasn't this, wonderkind, kid that could do anything. No, he ended up being a writer and being creative, and I love that.
It's funny. That's why I was very happy to see Drat Crusher end up in Starfleet, because Wesley didn't end up there. Jake didn't end up there. So it'd be really nice to see somebody's kid follow in their parents' footsteps and end up in Starfleet.
You do know that Captain Seven will, first things first, appoint Lieutenant Naomi Wildman to her ship. So she's definitely in Starfleet, isn't she? Let's face it.
Yeah. Maybe
we digress.
Up later.
Yeah, absolutely. Kestra who? She's been forgotten.
Didn't have the money for her, man.
Yeah. Shall we move on to assimilations and regenerations for this episode? So, listeners, you'll remember anything that we really enjoyed about this episode, we're going to assimilate it. And our downs for the episode, what we weren't so mad on, is a regeneration. We're going to hand it back. So, who wants to go first?
So this episode plays a lot like TNG's Disaster from season 5, where the main cast are in small groups and have their own mini dilemmas to address as part of the greater station-wide danger. And I think that's very true, especially in the sense that for a big part of the episode, they didn't have comms. So they didn't know what Jake and them were doing. They didn't know what Sisko was up to, and they didn't know what was going on in ops. So I thought that's a pretty good allegory there, or just reference there to disaster.
I would love to assimilate that one of the first lines in the beginning of the episode when the program first gets initiated and Sisko's in there and he's so over it. He doesn't want to listen to Dukat anymore. He's like, whatever. Okay. I represent the uprising forces and we surrender. And he's just like trying to dismiss the whole thing and get out of there, get it to shut up. And it was a great acting there. And I just, almost like the eye roll that he made and stuff. It was just really superb. I just love that.
Okay, I have a regeneration, and it's sort of the ending. Because there were so many things that were happening, like they were going to lose life support. They were going to get some gas to, gas everyone. Like there were all of these things, and I'm trying to keep track. Okay, so which stage are we at? And then we have Sisko fumbling around with those little sticks, trying to push him in the hole. Which one is which? Which one is which? And O'Brien is knocked out. And so I'm like, I'm really up here. And then all of a sudden, he sticks the sticks in, and then it's all good. And then there was no resolution for me in the story where it's like chaos, chaos, chaos. And then, okay, there goes Korkanoto walking down. I loved that part of it, but I'm like, wait a minute. There were so many disasters going to happen. Where were we? I didn't feel like there was a good conclusion of the station shutting down. I think I didn't get that character for the station.
Can I help maybe walk you through that one a little then, Amy? So
yes,
the peril was... Yeah, so the peril was the station building to overload, and the reactor was going to discharge and blow up the station. So Sisko had to make that reaction fire outwards rather than inwards, and it was absorbed into the shield. So Sisko putting in the isolinear rods into the system, it really reminded me of the Naked Now, with Data putting the isolinear chips in. That made the Enterprise then go to warp and avoid the asteroid.
Right.
So to me, it played very much the same way as that. So would you also put the same label of crap ending onto the Naked Now because they didn't get hit by an asteroid?
Well, no, because I didn't get to, we saw the ship leave and not get destroyed. So do we say life support is now restored? We're no longer those things, those systems that were down, I didn't feel were resolved.
Right. So you wanted maybe more of a kind of a cleaning up the mess scene at the end.
For the station's sake. I mean, that it was a character, and all of a sudden, boop, we're all happy again.
So help me out with we destroyed life support. We have 12 hours of life support left or whatever. But then it
dropped down to 5 minutes all of a sudden.
And then, but how do we have life support again when they destroyed the station, destroyed the console, and literally that last shot is everything's normal on the promenade. But they really damaged that place a lot in that episode.
Kara was shooting way too freely.
Kira loves shooting a console, especially if it's got a Cardassian LCAR system on it.
No, she's like, get out of the way.
Excellent.
So my regeneration, somebody help me. When Garrick was able to just go through any force field he wanted to, why wouldn't you just go to one of the runabouts where you have separate Starfleet systems there, transporters, and everything else at your disposal? Like the fact that their comms didn't work because the station comms were down. Well, what about the tie-in to the Starfleet systems that were in the 3 runabouts and the Defiant? Like, that is, I thought, like, just kind of, oops, we forgot about that little plot hole.
Yeah.
And reading some of the behind the scenes stuff of this episode was a shit show in the making. It literally, every writer touched it. I think Michael Piller at one point told them this was shit. Like, it literally, and I don't know that it holds up. I think because of these little like loose ends, I feel like it's a bit Swiss cheese. There's a lot of holes in this episode that I can't quite reconcile. Mark,
one of my regenerations for this episode is, let's have a moment of silence for the unnamed red shirt. Okay.
That one guy.
So there was the one guy in ops that just got completely vaporized and no one said anything. And like when Cisco checked in, no, we're all fine here. It's like that poor, red shirt was completely vaporized and there was no moment of, oh gods, they killed Kenny. There was just nothing. So
I know that would have been a full series arc on Discovery, wouldn't it?
Oh Lord.
I'm having a hard time here defending this episode, which I adore. So I'm going to throw in an assimilation as balance. Okay. I love, because someone like me would have critiqued the hell out of this if they hadn't said it. So when Quark and Odo were trapped in the security office, they established that the force field didn't just cover the door. It went through the walls, the ceiling, the floor, because Quark said, can't you just shapeshift your way out of here through like an air vent or something? And he said, no, it goes all through. So Odo was really contained. And had they not explained that, oh my God, I would have been writing letters.
Right. So it's that kind of exposition that helps, not have you do what I just did. I did love the line where Quark's like, no, I'm staying with you. This is the safest place in the station. I did love that line. I like
excellent. I did have a little regeneration, but even though it's just saying, when Bashir was trying to get that pistol off the ops table and he was like, oh, I can't get it. Come on. It was so easy. I would have done that.
Yep. I'm glad you put that in there because I'm like, dude, just go to the other side of the table. It's right there.
That's what I was waiting for him to do. He's like, no, I can't get it. I'm like, oh, my regeneration, and I brought this up, I think Amy and I were live chatting. Amy and I were watching listeners at the same time last night. So we were kind of shooting messages in real time to each other. What is the deal with Bashir's medical kit not having basic burn stuff? I mean, I think we even saw Beverly in some episode, like literally fix somebody's burns on the spot out in the field, not in sickbay. And then Jadzia can't use her hands the rest of the episode because she's burned them. And Bashir, what's the stuff in the basic medical Starfleet kit? Aren't there to do it.
I randomly was watching a DS9 episode the other day, and it's the Kira and Dukat one where they go to rescue Zial in discretion, and Dukat sits on something, it spikes him in the arse, and they have to pull the dermal regenerator out and rub it across his bottom. And so an emergency medical kit on an away mission would have a dermal regenerator, but a health and safety kit in the operations center would not. Maybe some ensign was tasked with, stocking them up and checking, and maybe he didn't do his job properly and he forgot to put one in.
Yeah, let's just blame the lower decks.
Yeah. Was it Mariner on the station around this time? We'll just blame Mariner.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Any more assimilations and regenerations, or have we read this episode to filth?
I think we did, but it was kind of fun to see everybody just kind of not be afraid to light this episode up.
Mark, what do you think?
I have one more assimilation I have to throw over there.
Yay.
Just for more balance, more assimilations. And my assimilation this week is going to Garrick. That's it. Just Garrick. Garrick is in this episode, and any episode that Garrick's in, I'm going to immediately love. And he was featured so heavily in this episode. So many great one-liners. I love him as a character. It's wonderful. So I think he helped boost the episode and make it so lovable.
Fabulous. Well, I think that's a lovely place to end on before we go into the trivia now. Then we've covered a lot of the trivia already in the first things that we've said. Certainly the first 3 points there. So I'm just going to go into continuity and throw a piece of trivia in quickly. That this is the first time we get a mention of cousin Gala, who is Quark's cousin, who infamously owns a moon. So Quark always feels very. Gala's done better for himself than Quark has financially. And then we see Gala later on in season 5 in Business as Usual. So there's a lot of the dialogue. The scene that you mentioned earlier, Amy, where Quark and Odo are walking away down the corridor, where as the volume is fading out, they start talking about Gala again. So yeah, I think it was great that they just randomly introduced the character in this episode, and then we got more explanation of him later on.
Well, I was hereby accusing this of being a big bottle show, but the VFX of shooting, having that replicated device there in Ops, and then I believe they said over 2 or 3 pages of dialogue, they had 60 phaser blasts. A lot of the budget was used on those scenes alone on what should have been a cheap bottle show. So I think they set out to do a bottle show to save money and end up spending a lot of money anyway.
Well, this episode marks a wardrobe change for Odo, which I think is called back. Is it called? No, it will be called back in a future episode. So he's not wearing a belt. But if you remember, Kira's like, hey, what happened to your belt? And he's like, oh, I don't need a belt to hold up my pants. I'm a changeling. But then did bring the belt back just for her. So I thought that was cute.
Yeah, love that. Crossfire in season 4 is one of my favorite DS9 episodes. The whole unrequited love by Odo is beautifully played, and it tugs my heartstrings. That episode, I love it. Well done, Amy.
Referenced rules of acquisition number 75. Home is where the heart is, but the stars are made of latinum. I just love that. Thought that was cool.
What are you
Christos
holding up?
is holding up his rules of acquisition book. Excellent.
Yay! I don't have that book. I'd love that.
This actually came out while DS9 was still airing. So they actually left some blank, and there's some of the rules aren't filled in because they hadn't been stated yet, but there are some blank pages at the end for you to write in additional rules as the show introduced them.
Oh, that's nice.
What year was that book?
1995, it says.
Oh, wow. So there's so many you can fill in.
Yeah.
There's a challenge for you, Christos. Go and finish the writing.
I know. If you think there were any book that was going to be updated along the way, it would have been this one. And so just a little paperback. I mean,
I'm sure it'll be on good old Memory Alpha as a full 285 list.
All right. Final thoughts, everyone.
Well, this was a really fun episode to watch. I've seen them all, but I don't ever remember. But yeah, it was just good. Again, the station being the character that I love the most. And then the interplay, like we never get to see Cisco, Jake, and O'Brien, just those 3, and them working together. And yeah, these different pairings going on was really a joy, and it was like fresh. It was, I liked it.
Yeah. For all the problems I had with the episode, I just really enjoyed watching it. Like, it was funny. And then I was kind of thinking back to my longstanding rivalry with Kelvin here. This is why I don't watch a lot of season 2 and 3 of DS9 because of episodes like this. But actually, it was really weird. I was just sitting on the couch last night. I was not drinking, and there were no other substances going on. But I did enjoy just watching it, and even for all the holes in it. I mean, maybe it was because Amy and I were bantering a little bit back and forth, but it was like, okay, all right, I'm just going to keep going with it, and I really enjoyed it for what it was.
Good. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. And I loved waking up this morning and seeing those messages on our little group chat where you'd been watching together. So I was like, yay. What are your final thoughts, Mark?
Oh, such an enjoyable episode. I'm glad everybody else seemed to like it too. Obviously, the dialogue was one of the things I really loved about this episode. I also really gravitate towards the sort of get off my ship kind of series. I always think it's fun when our hero is like the bottle episodes that primarily take place on the ship, but them having to retake the ship. And this was, as we said at the beginning, sort of flipped on its head, where it's like, oh, like the ship itself is trying to get rid of all of our heroes. And so it was a fun watch, and everybody kind of got their moments to shine through this, and they were all participating in regaining control. And it was fun. It was a fun ride.
Couldn't agree more. Something for everyone. Even Jake Sisko had lots of good stuff to do in this episode. So it's a real favourite of mine as early DS9. So Christos, do you want to tell us all where we're going next week?
Sure. We are actually introducing a new series next week. Shocking. It's what we do here. It's called the Architect series, and this will be part 1. And our first episode will be in tribute to DC Fontana. In this series, we focus our attention on the people behind the scenes who have brought our favorite shows to life, from the writers and directors to makeup artists who truly are the architects of this franchise. And oh my God, I can only think of so many people for this series. I mean, we're going to have fun with this one. But yeah, DC Fontana, what a legend there. Original writer and kind of showrunner to a certain extent, unofficially, on the original series, the animated series, and the first, I believe, 13 episodes of The Next Generation. So lots to talk about there. And I believe she also has some writing credits as far as DS9, right? See, all from memory.
Wow.
I like Dorothy Fontana. That's her real name, everybody. And she also wrote several novels along the way too.
Yeah.
So we have a lot. I guess, guys, we have some homework to do. This is not going to be just like go watch one episode and we're going to come back next week and talk about it.
Yeah. Remember, she did the novelization of Unification.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And Encounter at Farpoint, but didn't get credit for it. So what you have to do, I think what you have to do is memory alpha her a little bit. And also, what was the center seat had quite a bit of information.
That's right.
As well.
Oh my God, we're going to be so busy this week.
Yeah.
I know. And I have a business trip this week, so this should be interesting.
I thought you guys liked these researchy kind of episodes.
Yes.
We do.
No.
It's
just like it's like I said, this is not you can just get started on Saturday night or Sunday morning and still show up and be able to do it.
I'm getting back at Amy for the 2-parter last time.
Oh, come on now.
I didn't have to watch that one. I know Unification so well. I didn't have to watch it.
Love it. Well, we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode, and we hope that you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, and continue our discussion over there. You can also tweet your thoughts at AllGoodPod. So please make sure you follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. We've also partnered with our friends over at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching the master feed. So, Christos, where can people find you when you're not headfirst down a shaft in ore processing?
Shit, you found my spot. You can find me on Facebook and the BQN Collective, on Twitter and Instagram at GreekGeekSD, and also on my other podcast, What's the T-Bev, also on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube at What's the T-Bev. And Mark, where can people find you when you're not hovering over Garrick and Ops?
Oh, I'd be there. Absolutely. He can tailor my pants any day. When I'm not doing that, you guys can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook group. You can find me on Twitter at MarkWhite207. And if you become a patron of the network on Patreon, you can listen to my show, It's Green. And the one we dropped this week was a doozy. This was great. It was Amy and I. We had a blast discussing all things 1980s and with a focus on Madonna, and so much fun. We laughed so much. I love it. And I hope everybody has an opportunity to give it a listen.
It was a good walk down memory lane.
Well, Amy, where can people find you when you are not brushing off Gul Dukat's advances and being disgusted by him?
Oh, well, I will definitely be doing that. But when I'm not doing that, you can find me here on the network where I'm co-hosting Galaxy Class, which is all about Next Generation, and Union Federation, which is about the Orville and New Trek. I am on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, but my favorite place right there, BQN Collective. And Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not reading A Stitch in Time, read by Mark Alimo?
Andy Robinson.
Andy Robinson, that one.
What? If I had a copy of A Stitch in Time audiobook read by Mark Alimo, that would be worth an awful lot of money because it's a one-off apparently. But when I'm not searching for memorabilia, you can find me on Twitter and or Instagram at Kelvin's Timeline, or you can head over to the BQN Collective on Facebook and chat with me over in the group there.
Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcast with our master feed by searching BQN. This way you won't miss any of our shows like Union Federation, Galaxy Class, History with the Szilagyi, Infinite Diversity, Sasquatch, What's the T-Bev, Trexperts Quiz, Bargain Bin Gamer, and our newest podcast, Captain's Couch. Wow, we're getting so many shows. Look at that. That's just getting longer and longer to read.
I know, our network is growing. I love it. At this time, we would like to thank our associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and Tim Cooper. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and for our own Mark White for our artwork each and every week.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We'll add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group so you can enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us
as we search out
all good things.